Good evening, Bula Vinaka and Namaste. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Tonight we speak rugby. We talk about a sport that everybody loves. It's a religion on its own, people say here in Fiji, and it continues to take its own form each and every day. You wake up one day, we are talking about it as the greatest sport on earth. We wake up another day, we may be complaining on how our team is doing. But that is all part of the sport. Naca Cawanibuka, he has led the Fiji Sevens rugby team's gold medal winning campaigns at the Summer Olympics in Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2021, and has had multiple World Championship wins as head of athletic performance. He's also the head of athletic performance of the Swire Shipping Fijian Drua, which made the quarterfinals in the second year of the Super Rugby Pacific competition. Very busy man, taking out his time to talk to us. Naca, welcome back to the show.
Naca Vijay, Bole everyone, it's great to be back.
Now, Naca, there has been a solid development program for the Fijian Drua in the first and second year. It was a tough first year, no doubt, to start off with due to COVID-19 and players living away from home. Can you please tell the listeners and viewers how difficult this was for the players?
Yes, I think everyone's quite aware those were very difficult times, and it was a time, I guess, in our lifetime, no one really prepared for. And we, as a new professional rugby entity at the time, had to go with the flow. And it was a team that was assembled, within a matter of months. And then all of a sudden, players came together to Lennox Head and formed this very first Fijian Drua in a Super Rugby competition. Being away from home obviously had its challenges in that players not being with their families. It was a different kind of daily routine. You're not getting to see them for months on end. Those who had children, you're probably not going to be seeing your kids. And there's X amount of time, number of weeks, months, where you don't actually get to see them physically in your home setting. Seeing them off to school, putting them to sleep at night, spending time with your wife and your family, the boys, in their community settings. So all that had to change. On the positive note, in terms of performance, that probably was a blessing in disguise, because that was an ideal opportunity where you get a group of young men together into a location up at Lennox Head, which was, from a Fiji context, that's state-of-the-art performance for us. Just the facility, the resources around that area in a beautiful part of Australia. You could ask for nothing better. And that was like for us, a piece of Fiji on the northern beaches of New South Wales. And the players were able to get into this system, this routine of, training, sleeping, building their physical engine, their physical capacities, and working with the coaches and just gelling as a team. I think that was the beauty about year one. And looking back now in hindsight, I think that formed the foundation of where we are today on our journey. And it was priceless. I think the mental challenges of being away took its toll. There were moments where it was quite hard, especially where we as coaches and management and even senior players had to look after our younger brothers. Some of them first time to actually go through that kind of experience. But the beauty about it, something we've waited for so long in Fiji, professional rugby, now it's home, now it's with us. And you're getting paid to do something you love doing and something you probably dreamt of as a young fella growing up in the village. So, that's both sides of the coin, but, you got to do what you have to do. And that's what he had to do back in 2021.
Some were living away from home, had never left Fiji, and then they had to be housed in Sydney. What were the challenges and issues arising knowing that it was a long period of time and a long way away from home?
Well, certainly challenges like, things like the food you'll be eating on a daily basis is different now. So that had to change. The boys, they did really well adjusting to that. Some of them, when you live in your communities back home in Fiji, you can probably wake up whatever time you want to wake up. And you go to bed whatever time you want to go to bed. You're probably doing training once a day. And probably the training times are having to change on a daily basis. You're probably just doing whatever you feel like doing and just to your level of comforts, and then when it gets a bit hard, then probably you can pull out of it. No one's watching you, nobody really cares. Now it is all different. Now there's a set timetable. Now you got 5:30 in the morning, you got to wake up. 6 o'clock you're in the gym. Such and such a time you're doing this. Now your recovery is monitored. Now your weights program in the gym is monitored. Your body composition is measured. Now someone's on your shoulder watching what you're putting on your plate. Now you have to push yourself harder. Now you need to attain to a certain level of fitness so you can cope with the demands of Super Rugby. All those kind of things. Now you got a medical appointment at 8:30 and you must not be late. Now you have an appointment with coach. You have to talk with him and review your performance. No one really talked to you about the detail of how fast you got off the ground after making a tackle. How many seconds it took you to do a kick line chase from within your 22 to the halfway. No one really showed you the footage. No one showed you how your body position was. That's the detail. And there's a whole host of things that was jam-packed into a small amount of time for these young players. And you can imagine the human brain having to, all these things coming from everywhere, and you got to digest it. And no one actually took you through the phases. Like all of a sudden you were playing skipper rugby in Fiji, and boom, you're thrown into this massive lake.
Totally different tier of competition.
It is a whole new ball game.
What is your analysis of the Drua's first year of competition? What were major successes and challenges?
I think, speaking from an athletic performance point of view, the big positive for us, now the players are in an environment, in a consistent place where they can do their strength work, do their power work. They got their conditioning sorted, their nutrition is sorted, and it's in a consistent place. And routines. Routines is big. You talk to any Olympic gold medalist, talk to any world champion, and they will tell you routine. Our boys never had routine before. And routine sometimes is boring. And that's the part that distinguishes those who are in there just to participate, those who are in there just to be good, and those who are in there to be the greatest. And routine is what differentiates those who just participate and those who make the grade and go beyond.
Coming into this year, the Drua players are now household names, and you can see Drua merchandise everywhere. The support is immense. How are the coaches reacting to this, knowing that the players need to be focused on the job, on delivering in the competition, and this huge support base that has built very quickly for players who are not so well known last year to very well known this year?
Well, I think, as a coaching staff, we're excited. There's never been a greater time like this. Everyone's talking about Drua. Everyone's riding the Drua wave, and so we should as a nation. People say it's Drua nation, and we only have one super team, and everyone's happy with it and proud of it. And I think the coaches are riding that wave as well. When you look at it from the human side, it's such a good thing where you see people enjoying and everyone is united as one. It's a common language. But having said that, within the professional landscape, from in the coach's perspective, in terms of performance, the daily grind continues. Watching footage, reviewing, preparing clips for the players, waking up early, staying up late, looking at individuals, looking at our trends, which is really big in this game. Where are we heading? What's our curve looking like in different aspects of the game? And whilst we are enjoying that, we know also the reality and the expectation from the general public, as it is the people's team. There are ups and downs. There are times where we're quite frustrated with how things can pan out. And likewise the playing group. But that's a challenge. You live and die by the sword, and you that's part of the nature of the beast and performance sport. We try and chase improvements, chase that 1% every single training day, and the players aspire to doing that as well. It's a very young playing group. It's a young coaching group, I'd say, as a whole together in this space. The coaches are, some of the best rugby minds. Them coming together, all of us in that piece, everyone putting in their little piece. We're all small parts of the machinery, helping these boys be the best they can be. And it's been quite a ride the last 2 years.
Your skills are intertwined and with cultural and spiritual leadership capacity to help athletes with a unique Fijian holistic approach. What has been the Drua story this year based on what they have gone through behind the scenes to deliver a historic second-year performance, developing players from grassroots rugby to stars in the international arena?
That's a great question, and I think an important one as well. And this is something we drive within our environment, that the boys understand their identity, understand their DNA. And we need to make sure that we solidify these anchors. Anchors for any Fijian player is faith and their culture. Speaking on a cultural theme, we got in touch with Mr. Simi Sebundrendre, someone well known in Fiji and respected within our Itoke cultural heritage front. And, he's helped us quite a lot in terms of having cultural themes, getting strong with our language. We as a people, but also connecting that to high performance. I know everyone's been watching the Bole, and the Bole is quite special. The boys and the team and the staff for the first 4 weeks at Lennox Head, we put our heads together and came up with 3 core values of being relentless, disciplined, and what was the other one? Integrity. So we came up with those 3 words, and those 3 words are intertwined within the lyrics of the Bole. And how we staged it was, probably we've never talked about this. We got the boys to do a little assignment when we did our cultural sessions. You need to go back and you need to find out who you are. What is your korondina? What is your tikina, your yabusa, your matangali, your toka toka? What is your manu manu buka? What is your manu manu iwai, your ika, what is your tree, your plant? And all these kind of things. And the boys had to go back and bring that with them. What is your tutu vagabanua? What is your cultural standing in the village? Quite interesting. Because when the boys understood that, and then what we did, we positioned them, right? So we had a workshop out at Pacific Harbour late last year where, Simi got them in, and they all sat within the room where the chiefs sit. Where the Matanibonua, the Mbete, the Turanganikoro, the Sauturanga, the Mbati, the Mataisau and the Ngonindau, all these things. They position themselves, and Mr. Sebundrede would say, okay, when the Vanua sits, this is it. So when we did the Bole, how the boys are positioned in the Bole, they are positioned in their cultural standings. You got the Mbati standing in the front and around the ship. You got the triangle in the middle with the Matanitu Tolu, Kumbuna Tawata Burambasanga. You got the Sauturangas, you got the Matanibona, you got at the back, you got the Mataisau and the Ngonindau, the fishermen and the carpenters. All those kind of things. So the boys then understand who they are. What's your role in your traditional setting. We use some key themes, some key Fijian words in our rugby language that had bearings for the boys. When you look at it from a spiritual perspective, our values intertwined with the Bible readings, intertwined with the Bible lessons and the spiritual message we got out of it. And all of this become ingrained into how we want to behave as well. Because there's no use having a values and no behaviors attached. We wanted to make sure there's some specific performance behaviors and just lifestyle habits intertwined with our values. Because we want to see values in action. That's the goal.
Accountability.
And accountability.
With integrity.
Yes.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Why are we playing outside?
Because my dad is thinking my home is going to be super cool.
No way!
Yeah, he makes me a new desk.
Whoa, then we can stay together.
He's also going to paint my walls.
Where did he get this tooth from?
Kasabian, they have everything you need.
I wish my dad could do that.
Because your dad is not Kasabian's dad.
Dad, go to Kasabian!
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, Naca Cawanibuka, head of athletic performance of the Swai Shipping Fijian Drua and of course gold medal winner in the Rio Olympics and in Tokyo in 2021. Let's talk about the Bole. We have different teams, some of the teams who are deeply rooted with their culture and tradition, and how it can enhance people's performance, give them that boost, the lift, the values of the team that what the team stands for. The Drua, as it came into the competition, decided to do the Bole. How did the idea come about? How did the words come about? And if you can talk about the formation and the words for the people watching.
Right, so Super Rugby Pacific was called Pacific for just one reason, because of two teams, Moana and the Drua. And when we assembled at Lennox in 2021, we talked with the coaching group and they asked if we were going to have a Fijian kind of war dance. Based on that now it's a cultural kind of competition based on our Pacifica heritage, and obviously when you look at the teams in Australia and New Zealand, they have a very strong presence of Pacific, Polynesian, Melanesian presence. So when we talked about Bole, we needed to make sure that the words had a meaning. That when the players are saying the words, it has meaning to them. When you look at sports psychology and performance, there's a number of different mental skills that people are taught. Imagery, so having pictures, mental pictures and vision, self-talk, so you get to reinforce ideas, thoughts, systems, processes, goal setting, all those kind of things. When you look at, obviously, the Haka, you look at the Flying Fijians, Dhimbi, you look at Bole is no different. When you go back into, ancient times, our forefathers used it. And what I've learned is what they did was, before they would go into battle, they would prepare Bole, and the Ambati and the warriors would present it in front of their chiefs. They'll unveil it in front of their chiefs. So when we put this Bole together, and if you time it, it goes for, I think, about just 1 minute. And we try to intertwine in there the faith of the boys. So you find that, the skipper, the captain, whoever's leading will lead with a verse from Psalm 121. We look to the hills where help comes from. And that reinforces with the boys. They're out there to perform. But that's the performer in the arena. Inside that jersey is a real person, a man, a person with values, beliefs, and he's representing a people. So when they're actually stating it, they're stating and confirming what they believe in as a person. And the words, they obviously acknowledge Neito Kalo, and that's God. Neito Vanua, and they are embracing their Vanua. When they say their Vanua, they are connecting themselves to their Yabusa, Toka Toka, Matangali, their Korondina, Koronivasu, everything about that. Nogomata Vuvale, and that's my family. They're talking about everyone within their family circles, family and friends. And then they say, we will protect its fences, its defenses. And they're saying that to reinforce. And they are just repeating that to bring them into, it's an energy, it's how the human brain works. And they're reinforcing that. Now, in terms of the actions that they do, obviously we have all our Mekevanos, all our traditional Mekes that we do. And the boys have done that from high school and primary school and in the villages. So we try and look at the different actions that actually resonates with the words. And it tells a story. They're basically telling a story. And they're reinforcing for them their beliefs and what the system and processes in the team. So that's pretty much what they're trying to achieve out of the Bole, and it binds them together. And I think that's the one time, look at high performance sport, you're always trying to get an edge when you're in the zone, and hopefully that's what the boys can get out of it. It's quite an educational thing about it. At the start, we had to make sure that the boys understood what it was, and it was about them, nothing else. And the values, the way they finish with integrity, relentless, and discipline, that's at the end where they say that and finish off.
Great conversation there, Nada, and definitely people appreciate the values and ethics of the team. Now people are saying that the Drua in the competition, your standards showed in the quarterfinal against the Crusaders in Christchurch, where we were well beaten. What is your message to the people who may rate you as not good enough for finals rugby?
I think when you look at it in context, Super Rugby is not an easy competition to compete in. It's one of the world's best competitions. I mean, the Wallabies and the All Blacks have played in there for over 2 decades. The boys have come a long way in a couple of years. When you look at it in the context, there's teams in the competition who have not made the top 8, even though they've been there for quite some time. So for the Drua and these young men who are really special, and the hard work done by the coaching staff, support staff, management, and the whole organization, to get the team to be able to contest in the top 8 in only its second year, that's massive jump from year one. There's something we need to understand about high performance sport. Success doesn't just happen overnight. The boys have to know what success feels like. They know what it feels like when you've actually learned along the way. And when I say learning, when we lose games, we're actually learning. And last year we won only 2. We lost a host of games, and those were our learnings. We won a few more games this year, and that's the boys' opportunity, and the staff and the team and the organization. It was our opportunity to taste a little bit of success. Just so that, and what does that success do? I remember Ben Ryan said this back in 2015 after the Hong Kong Sevens win, the first of the 5 in a row. He said, winning is a powerful elixir. It's like a medication. Once you tasted it, you want more. This year when the boys beat the Crusaders in Lautoka, they believed. And the message that week in our environment was believe. And that was led by our special Penny Matawalu, who led one of our Lotus in that week. And he asked the boys, do you believe? And believing is an interesting thing. You sometimes you can say you believe, but it's not until you actually do something and you get something out of it that then you believe. So that win against the Crusaders, for me, I think, and many people in our environment would probably vouch for this, that it changed the dynamics within our system, within the team. The boys lifted soon after that. And even after the Hurricanes game, the boys shifted again another gear. And now the belief is in the Drua. And all that hard work that they've done in preseason, it only is now being reinforced. And the boys believe in the system first, believe in the processes, and now they can go out there and just perform, express themselves.
You're aware of players putting in the hard yards. You've gone through the mill with them. There's definitely players like Tevita Ikanivere, Celestino Rautaumanda, the whole team, as far as the development is concerned. And what is coming through from the ground is we're finally seeing a Fiji team that is playing 80 minutes of good rugby. We are not giving in if we are trailing by a certain amount of points. We have forwards running like backs. We have seen the change of physique in players from when they started to now, almost irrecognizable what they can do. A lot of work going in there. And the other issue is about confidence levels. People like Ravu Taumanda now backing himself up, knowing that he can beat several defenders on to go and score on the try line. The work that's going behind the scene to make sure that these things happen, knowing that you have to focus on their physical, their mental, spiritual capacity, and including capability.
Yeah, I mean, you've just named 2 very, impressive young men there. So in our system, I think the crowd watches everything that happens on the field. I'll give you a brief run through of just what we do. For them to be able to do that, we do hydration testing in our environment. The boys come in the morning on our big training days and even on game days. We do hydration testing where we check urine samples. We can tell whether they are hydrated or severely dehydrated, and they need to rehydrate to make sure that their body is functioning well. we've got a very good young team of SNC coaches back at base, who run daily routines and monitoring. These boys now, what we didn't have in Fiji Rugby before, we've been able to get it in the last couple of years, live GPS analysis. They know how fast they're tracking, how hard they're working in terms of, accelerations that they do in a training session, the high speed running meters that they need to cover. And we have set benchmarks. Just on another example is, you probably will see the All Blacks doing, jumps in the gym and using, some kind of power monitoring devices. We have that in our environment. And the boys are able to look at their jump scores live in the gym, and they compete and contest against each other. We have leaderboards, and that's something, it brings out the young boy in them who wants to be number one in the gym room. So guys like Stino, guys like Tex, they have very high jump scores. And for us as coaches, our job is to show them and feedback to them. And we tell them, this is how fast you ran. How fast you ran is probably you're probably running as fast as Carly Niles. That's what Stino is running right now. Some of his speeds, maximum velocities, is really up there, and their jump scores. And when we tell them and we show them these numbers, and look at your footage, look at you accelerating between two players, we could tell that from what you're doing in the gym. So you look at yourself for Masi blasting through a space that probably was not there. And even Celestino. Stino's a prime example. He came in last year and he was just in his first year. It's quite hard for the young men. But the environment, and this is why it's so important for any team in the high performance setting. Your environment can bring out the best in your athletes. And we as coaches, our job is to make sure that we actually show them how good they can be. We need to tell them how good they actually are. And what that does, it actually boosts their confidence levels. So you see with the try Stino scored against the Queensland Reds, that final game, he kicked from inside our 22. That week he did a personal best in his maximum velocities, right? And he jumped probably as high. Probably Filippo didn't realize how high this guy can jump, because he can jump. And last year he had a severe injury playing up in Brisbane, but he's worked hard to get back where he is. And all the boys in the team, you talked about transformation, Vijay, and all our boys, they're all special in their own right. So for us, our jobs, show them the numbers, and they look at their footage, marry the two, and then just tells you. So, if they keep on the straight and narrow, man, their best version is smiling back at them, asking them to keep coming, and they'll meet.
What is the next step for the Drua? Going into next year's competition, hard work continues. I know some goals have been set on what more can be done. People are asking that Drua to win games away from home. We know that Drua has protected its home ground well, but what about outside Fiji? What's your message to the people?
Yes, year 2 has been different to year 1. I think, God willing, year 3 is going to be even more different. Why? It's because you'll have more players now, potentially who will have World Cup experience under their belt. And that's massive. The boys who went on the end of the year Flying Fijians tour last year, who joined Drua this year, you look at how they performed. They had grown from what they were last year. You can only imagine them now exposed to, more high-level coaching, more high-level training, and just, the World Cup is, the top of the food chain, and they'll be better for it. Obviously, we have different players doing different things this time of the year. Players will be playing in Skipper. There's a few players playing in Australia and New Zealand. There's a few of our development players as well coming through the grades, but they know pre-season is coming, and that's going to be another good opportunity for them to prepare their physical capacities and their playing capability, as our head coach normally says. Yes, obviously the boys did well on the local front. Playing overseas is tough. But they've learned a lot from this year, and I'm sure next year the boys will rise. The travel plan will obviously change next year. We've reviewed this year, and they've learned on the road. And I think what you'll find next year is growth from within the playing group and the coaching group as well as a whole.
Motivating factors for these players is also important. You've done a lot of work with them. in regards to that. You see during Mother's Day, leading up to Mother's Day, the immense value that is placed on respecting mothers, loving women in general, making sure that respecting elders and having this culture about around the team in making sure that those values are not forgotten. If you can talk about that, knowing that we have our own challenges in society now.
That's a very good point. I think it's really important, and the boys see that the value of their moms, their grandmas, their aunties, all the marama in their lives growing up, all those ladies, their sisters, their siblings, that they value. And I think it's really important. And the beauty about it, they don't forget that. The boys actually appreciate and respect, value all our great women out there. And it's our jobs to protect our women. It's our jobs to make sure that, we're doing this for them. Because if it weren't for them, there's no way, these players and this group of young men would be where they are. And, you speak to any one of them and they'll tell you their moms are their bosses, and that's so important. And I think, the Drua is a machinery that would like to make sure that, we are setting that standard. We respect and value our women, and so we should. They are an important part of our society, and who we are, we pay tribute to them.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Why are we playing outside?
Because my dad is thinking my home is gonna be super cool.
No way!
Yeah, he makes me a new desk.
Well, then we can stay together.
He's also gonna paint my walls.
Where did you get this tooth from?
Kasabiya, they have everything you need.
I wish my dad could do that.
Because your dad is not Kasabiya's dad.
Dad, go to Kasabi's!
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Welcome back. And Naca Cawanibuka in studio. Thank you very much for these great conversations that we are having regarding rugby. Looking at the future of rugby, the Flying Fijians are going to the Rugby World Cup in France in September later this year. You are now assisting the Flying Fijians. I was talking to a few people that you are back in a capacity to assist, and there was a lot of jubilation in the group that I was sharing the story about. What is your level of involvement?
I guess I'm there to support, from a physical conditioning point of view, helping the staff get our boys ready, ready in the best physical, condition that they can achieve for the Rugby World Cup, to do themselves and do their families and the nation proud in this quadrennial event. I think obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, but my focus would be to do what I can to help the boys prepare, stay healthy, stay fit, and compete, and perform well.
It's an amazing mix of players. A lot of people seeing the Drua, people who have come through the local rugby, played for the Drua in the Flying Fijians extended squad. The squad, of course, will be trimmed down further, and then you've got some of the best overseas-based players. How do you see the squad?
I think it's an exciting time. This is, I think on our journey for us as a nation, Fiji Rugby, we've never had something like this, where you have a whole squad that's now exposed to professional rugby, and they've gained X amount of mileage playing this game at a very top level. And the coaching staff have got, game minutes for all those players coming in from the different tiers up in Europe, the UK, and also here in Super Rugby down south. We never had that. Initially you'd have, I think going back, when the World Cup started, you look at 99, 2003, 2007, you had a whole host of players coming in from overseas clubs. And then you had some players who were playing in the local competitions. And those players filled in, from the local competition. And looking back at 2007, you had players who made that team who were part of the colonial franchise back then, which I think was an awesome model. But nothing in a professional setting, which the Drua have done now. And I think it's only going to be good. It's good now. Players are all rubbing shoulders against each other, and it's the cream de la cream of Fiji's current best rugby players. And it's a good environment, I guess. I believe it's going to be a great opportunity for the players to bring out the best in themselves amongst each other. And obviously, I'm sure the coaching staff and everyone is working towards that.
The team has been in Taveuni. The main focus, Coach Simon Rewalui was saying, is to reconnect with the people rather than staying at a 5-star hotel. How important is that for a Fiji team?
I've been part of the past Rugby World Cup campaigns back in 07, 2011, so a bit of 2015, 2019 prep. What they're doing now has never been done before, and they say, if you wanted to change things up, to get a better yield, and that's important, do that. I think the boys have never done this, so I'm sure there's a lot of hard work that the boys will do this week, and that's part of the plan. I think the one thing is, there was times in the past where they'd say, this Fiji team has become a hotel team, they're away from the people. They stay in the hotel, stay in the 5-star, and they just prepare, off they go. These boys represent the people, and I think in coaching, when you talk about high performance, the principles of coaching and the principles of preparation don't change. You can change the venues wherever you want to go, and that's fine. I mean, if you can tick the box, connect with the people, but still have your basic building blocks of getting your physical conditioning, your capacity work going. It's a short runway to this Rugby World Cup. This is different. In previous years, they'd have a big block to physically prepare. This one is different. They're very short prep, then straight into games. But a lot of the boys, pretty much all of them, have played quite a lot of minutes rugby. There's a few of them who probably might be lagging a bit. So it's an individual needs kind of approach that the coaches will do, I'm sure. And that's going to be what will help this team go forward. Having said that, I'll say this from my time within the Fiji team. When the team gels, when the team is in the right space of mind, the team can do anything. And I think now we're at a crossroads in our rugby journey and our rugby history, and it's an exciting time.
We also have some of the best rugby minds in Fiji. The likes of Simon Rewalui, Koli Sewambu and others. A whole lot of local talent as we have grown. What is being done, or what should be done to continue to nurture our coaching talent?
I think it's important that we understand who we are as Fijians, how we express ourselves on the rugby field, our identity. And I think you talk to any international coach, any international team, and they say the one thing about Fijians, physicality. And that's how we do it. But physicality comes at a price, and that needs physical conditioning. Being fit to be resilient and last and relentless for the whole 80 minutes. Week in, week out. This World Cup is going to be a long haul, and all teams will want to train to be the number one. And that's obviously you mentioned some of the best rugby minds, and that's a good thing. And our boys will only benefit from it. But let's not forget, we've got players now in this team who have come through a lot of great coaches in their time. What you'll have now is a group of Fijian players who are like coaches on the field. And that's something that's really important. You talk to the Irish team that won the series in New Zealand last year? They beat the All Blacks. What they have on the field and what they've created is rugby coaches on the field. And that for us is the blueprint. And you look at Ben Ryan, when he was with the Fiji Sevens, he didn't do analysis with the boys because he trusted the boys' IQ. The boys were analysts in their own right. And the Fijian brain works tremendous. It's a different kind of network wiring that we have. And our boys are really intelligent. And once they understand, the principles of the game, what they need to do in different parts of the field, and our coaches will give them the tools. My job and the SNC team to make sure they have the capacity to do that. And our job will be to drive the disciplines, that they are eating the right foods, they're hydrating well, they're doing the extra recovery, doing the mobilized activation exercises. They need to get their work done in the gym. They need to do the extra fitness work. If it's a low training day, you don't need X amount of energy, carbohydrate, cut it down. You don't need to be on your phone at 11 p.m. If we can get that right, we get all the disciplines right, you're sleeping well, eating well, the talent will take care of itself. And that's the exciting bit.
We have Australia, Wales, Georgia and Portugal in our team. How do you rate our chances coming out of the pool stages?
Well, I think, right now, I think the team will focus on its preparations and making sure that we can, control what we can control. And that's getting ourselves in the best physical shape, and obviously from a rugby perspective, the coaches have, their work cut out, and the players as well. I think, Australia and Wales, the Flying Fijians have played them in the World Cup since 2007. Probably 2011, we didn't have the Wallabies, we had Wales in our pool. So they're kind of like our World Cup neighbors now. We kind of play them every year. But, we're going to be judged by our next one. And the past is the past. And I think, looking back to 2007, I'll share a little bit about that. That team that went was a really special team. Probably written off by many, many people. It's probably not a bad space to be in sometimes if you're Fiji, right? No one really thought or believed. Probably the families did. There's a lot of people who didn't count that team to reach as far as they did. But that team, those boys who played in that team, they had already experienced success in their professional clubs overseas. Some of them were World Cup winners in 2005 at the Rugby World Cup Sevens. They knew what success was like, playing in the big stadiums. And when they went, obviously the Australian game was a tough one in Montpellier, I remember that. But when we prepared for Wales, all that work, they had the sand dunes in their legs, they had Lawanga Park in their lungs. They had prepared for that battle and for that one moment against the Welsh team, in Nantes. And how they started, they blitzed, they scored over 20 points in that first half. The belief was there. They were a strong brotherhood, that group. And we had a spine in the team that was strong as steel. Some of the senior players in that group, and coaching staff and just the mentors, we had Tal Renkamo was there, played a big part, Pierre Bosco, legend of our game. Obviously Ili Tambua, and you have legends like Moji Raluni, Sisa, Nicky Little, it's too many to name. That was back, for me, I look back at 2007, that was the benchmark. They reached top 8. So it's exciting, Vijay, to say the least.
Now we'll talk a bit about sevens. Of course, you have been part of the structure. You have brought in a lot of wins, being part of the team, and of course the historic gold medal wins. What is your analysis on our national sevens team, which has lost about 12 tournaments, a winless period that has attracted a lot of attention? Fans are concerned. The team lost to Argentina in the final of the last tournament in London. What are your thoughts? What needs to be done, or what's your analysis?
I think we have a great team. I think when you look at our senior boys, all our senior players in the team started after Tim Mickelson, Scott Curry, Dixon, and some of the senior New Zealand players. Our boys started after they started. So, that's something we need to understand, that they can still play this game. The non-negotiables would be making sure that our team environment, team culture, we have a performance culture where boys come in and they're ready to work. Physical conditioning is a big rock. It's a non-negotiable. Then when we get that right, there's a lot of our performance goals will be met. Because it makes the boys resilient, mentally tough. Discipline as well. Under fatigue is important. Accurate decision making. Under fatigue, under pressure, and repeatedly doing that within tournament, in between tournaments, and especially on the big stage. Looking back at 2016, 2020 preparation, we wanted to make sure that, the team was ready for the 3-day tournaments, because that's Olympics. Whether it be Hong Kong or Vegas, where they had that kind of format, wanted to make sure that we were picking for those tournaments. Why? Because you want to experience Olympic success before you get there. You want to make sure you tick that box. And, we were really strong on nutrition, strong on disciplines like sleep. Not perfect at times, but the boys understand. They knew that when they won tournaments, they won championships, it was based on the rock foundation of these little disciplines. And sometimes it's the boring things that matter. Forcing yourself to go to sleep at a set time, waking up at a set time. That's important, because you can have all the talent in the world, but these are the unseen things that fuels performance. It fuels consistency. And, from a coaching perspective, that's what we need to drive. And you're going to be hated to be, being the hard taskmaster. But, at the end of the day, when the boys have that gold medal around their necks, they will come and thank you. And that's our job, to make sure that they perform for themselves, for their families, and that's their future. And for Fiji, really.
Just the connection in 2021, the difficulties, everything thrown at you, knowing that the task was immense to work with Beba to deliver that or to successfully defend the gold medal in the Summer Olympics. And even if you can share, you had to practice out the team playing at different times and even going to the stadium from the camp here because you had no other choices.
Well, the thing is, chaos is part of our DNA. We kind of like really revel in chaos sometimes, but that was obviously with the COVID, like I said before, the people didn't prepare for that. But when it came, we got hit hard because we were in this lockdown bubble, right? We had a gym space, and I share this with a lot of my international colleagues, coaches in different countries. We had to make do with a tent gym in 2 car parking slots at the St. John Hostel. 4 barbells, couple of trap bars, weight plates that amounted to 250, 300 kilos, about 4 or 6 dumbbells, 2 benches. Can you imagine Chita Wanigolo trying to bench press 130, 140 kilos with 2 players supporting him? There's no machine there. We had to be really creative, and the boys built this kind of resilience to not get bored in that space. We had to be there for 8 weeks. Now, the rest of the world were training in high-performance gyms at that time. They were in the state of the art. They were in the OTCs, Olympic Training Centers. We were in a car park. We were in a hostel, and that was our blessing. Because what it did, it actually bred, once it was really challenging at the time, I'd say now, it bred something like the team became bomb-proof in terms of how they were solidified. We trained out at the stadium. We couldn't go to the swimming pool nor the ocean for recovery. We only had a couple of ice bins where the boys jumped in twice a day, or once a day sometimes, based on our training demand. Back in 2016, we didn't have our gym ready till 3 weeks into our Olympic program. That was beyond our control. We couldn't control that. How do you manage that? So, you have to, that's where our coaching is really challenged, to be creative, understanding the principles of physical performance, understanding components of fitness, understanding planning periodization, and this special group of talent. We had to replicate the Olympics within our preparation. We had our Olympic week where we would go for 3 days with 2 games in a day. And the routine was smack bang, just like how you would be in a games village. But it was in a COVID setting. And now very difficult, but I'm going to say this. For me, it was probably one of the most challenging times mentally as a coach. But it really helped me build resilience and challenge my creativity, I think, and the whole coaching staff.
You personally affected during that time as well?
I'd honestly say yes. And I think all the family men in the team, all the boys, all the players and all the staff, they were severely challenged. Came to tipping point, but I'm glad we went through that dark hour.
That's Swai Shipping Fijian Drua, Head of Athletic Performance, and now also a person assisting the Flying Fijians for this year's Rugby World Cup, Naca Cawanibuka. That is our show for tonight. Until next week, have a good evening.